Women are 18% more likely to burn out than men. And I think it's because of this set of traits and learned behaviours. Number 1, people pleasing. You say yes when you mean no. You take on the extra project, overextending yourself. You smooth things over and do everything you can to ensure no one's unhappy with you. It looks like kindness, but it's actually fear. Fear of disappointing someone, fear of being difficult, fear of being a burden. Being nice is a survival response, and it comes at a cost. You end up exhausted, resentful, and chasing approval that you never quite get. And I say this having been a huge people pleaser myself. But things only started getting better when I started putting up boundaries. I got more respect, I was happier, and I was more confident in myself. Number 2, self-sacrificing. This is very close to people pleasing. You were praised for achieving and you were praised for helping. And as you grew up, you kept helping until it became a huge part of your identity. So you kept putting everyone else's needs first. Not necessarily because you wanted to, but because you were told that that's what good girls do. And this behaviour became ingrained in who you are. Number 3, avoiding conflict. You avoid conflict and difficult conversations. Initially, this makes you feel safe and comfortable, but all you end up doing is procrastinating and pushing that conversation further down the road. And now, as you have more time to think about it, you rehearse this conversation over and over again in your head. You catastrophize, and that rehearsal creates weeks of anxiety for a conversation that most of the time goes better than you imagined. Number 4, imposter syndrome. Women report having imposter syndrome at much higher rates than men in the workplace. That feeling of not quite belonging and not deserving to be there. And some of this stems from the workplace, but some of this is due to your own self-belief and confidence. So to prove to yourself that you deserve to be there, you work harder, you stay later, and you triple check everything. You put more and more effort and energy in until you can't anymore. I did this at my dream job. 1 year into my career, fully remote because of COVID, and completely out of my depth. I felt like a complete imposter, like I'd been hired by mistake, like I wasn't good enough to do the job. So I worked harder to prove that I deserved to be there. And then I continued to work harder to show that I deserved to be promoted. And that kept happening. I never quite believed that I was good enough for that role. So I pushed myself further and further, and the stories that I was telling myself in my head was what ended up leading to the burnout. Number 5, not asking for help. And this was another mistake I made. I didn't ask for help because I didn't want to be a burden. And I wanted to prove that I could cope because I felt like I should be able to. I never even stopped to question the workload and whether it was doable. So I carried it all myself until I couldn't anymore. Number 6, emotional investment. Women are more likely to say that they need their work to feel purposeful. And when it does, that's a real boost to our well-being, and our productivity and the amount that we achieve in the job skyrockets. But when that purpose is lost, it isn't just a bad job. The work becomes a huge energy drain. The amount of motivation and willpower you need to even start any of your tasks becomes so much higher. And you feel this tension between what your work should feel like or used to feel like and how it feels now. Number 7, invisible labour. The 9-to-5 was created 50 or so years ago where women stayed at home and looked after the house, and it was the men that went out to work the job. And we used to be able to live off that single income. But now the modern day reality is that we need 2 incomes. So on top of that full-time job, you're also buying groceries, cooking, cleaning, maybe looking after children or parents too. And on average, women do 2 to 3 more hours of unpaid labour each day. It's almost a second job stacked on top of the first. And it's not necessarily just the extra work. It's also that mental load of remembering to do everything. All of these tiny little things that you're juggling, trying not to drop a single one. And number 8, chronic indecision. Let me know if this sounds like you. You treat every decision like it's permanent. It's the most important thing. It's either right or wrong with no in between. You overthink everything because you don't want to make a mistake. But decisions have different levels of importance. And they're not nearly as fragile as they feel. Most of them are reversible if you discover you've made the wrong one. But because you're so tired and exhausted, even making a small decision can feel like a heavy weight. I wanted to end by saying that none of these traits are your fault. They're learned behaviours that society's encouraged as you are growing up as a girl and a young woman. There may be even a survival strategy that you built a long time ago, and it may have worked once back then, but it's not working any longer. These traits are partial causes of your burnout. There are plenty of external factors that would have contributed to it as well. And speaking from my burnout recovery journey, the external causes were the easy ones, but it was these internal traits that took much more effort and self-work to be able to reduce. But to completely fix your burnout and prevent it from reoccurring, you need to look at which of these you're still running on autopilot. Start by observing where these show up in your day-to-day without any judgment. Where were you people-pleasing this week? Where are you avoiding a conversation you know you need to have? Where could you ask for help? And where should you set boundaries or say no? You need to be patient as you work on these, but in the process, you'll become confident, happier, freer, and more self-assured. Even for me, 3 years on from burning out, I'm still learning about these and improving. But the change that this has made to my life has almost made me glad that I burnt out in the first place. So if you want to start tackling some of these behaviours, I made a video talking about indecision here and how to reduce overthinking and move forwards without looking back.